And I think I was really blown away to hear about your time as a Marine. And I'd like to start there.
Well, when I enlisted in the Marine Corps, I did so mostly because I had two friends of mine asking me to join them. We were in our senior year of high school, and they were going to visit with the Marine Corps recruiter and asked me if I'd go along with them, and I did. As we spent time with the Marine Corps recruiter, he eventually had us in the palm of his hands. I mean, this was during the height of the Vietnam War in 1968. I lasted 1 month. And walking through a village at night, I was on the point team. And the point man, he stepped over a tripwire, missed it, and I hit it. And that thing blew, and I got shrapnel on both my legs and my left elbow, and I was medevaced out. I left on a stretcher. So, the thoughts that I took back from that is I think I learned to think one day at a time. And I looked to quantify the worst thing that could possibly happen. That's got me through a number of businesses. I built 3 businesses now, and I'm working on the third, all from scratch. And, when you do a startup, you have a lot of good days and a lot of bad days. And sometimes, the good days are euphoric and the bad days look like Armageddon. So, how you think really matters. And I learned during the war how to think. I learned to quantify the worst thing, and quite often the worst thing, when you sit down and you quantify, it's not so bad. But if you look at the worst thing as this big, dark room full of bad things that could happen, then it looks like far worse than it actually is, and then it becomes debilitating.
Yeah, I mean, that's such a powerful reflection, hearing that from you based on the experiences that you went through. Often we hear that idea, but sitting with you here today, listening to in person, I can feel just how real that idea is for you. I love what you said about facing one day at a time. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of our anxiety, a lot of our pain, a lot of our stress is based on what could happen in 12 months.
Exactly.
Or what happened 12 months ago.
Yeah.
And what you're saying is, well, actually, when you take one day at a time, that feels manageable and solvable, even in such extreme situations.
Well, one day at a time is something you can do something about, right? Because it's there, to be worried about a year from now. There's not much you can do until it's a year from now. And then it becomes one day at a time.
Yeah.
I often thought that worry belongs to tomorrow. Regret belongs to yesterday. Happiness is here and now.
That's so powerful. Wow. And then when you came back and you come back and you're experiencing depression, you're experiencing, of course, all the stress, the trauma that comes from living in that way for a month. I mean, how did your parents react to that? Before we get on to how you reacted to it, how did your parents feel?
I grew up in a different kind of house. I grew up in a blue collar neighborhood in East Baltimore, and Mom and Dad were both compulsive gamblers, and they weren't very good at it. Now, I wouldn't trade my mom and dad for any two on the planet. I loved them to pieces, but they didn't pay a lot of attention to me, and I wasn't actually home that much, so they never noticed. They never noticed, and a lot of it, which a lot of veterans, I just kept to myself. My symptoms were, and as I was home, they got worse, and they got worse, and they got worse. And when I say that, I mean over 49 years. The symptoms with me was I didn't want to go places. I didn't want to be with groups, No matter who the group was, I never felt like I belonged, because I'd be there and I'd have this picture of the stuff that we did. And it just never leaves you. And of course, nobody else is dealing with that kind of stuff. So you definitely are different, right? So that's one of the things. A quick temper is another thing. People would describe me as being one of the most intense people they've ever met. Now, the crying, when I got into that, it was always by myself. Nobody be around. But there was good things too. And the good things were, when I went to college, When I came back, I worked as a laborer in a steel mill at Bethlehem Steel, and I did that for a year. And then the University of Baltimore had a special deal for veterans where my high school grades didn't matter, thank goodness. I didn't have to take the entrance exams, right? And I could go on the GI Bill, which I did. I went, studied accounting. Literally, I mean, as fate would have it, it was the first major in the book. What is this? They said, you good with math? I said, yeah, as good as anything. You interested in business? Yeah. You should try accounting. And I did. And I wound up graduating with a Bachelor of Science in Accountancy, magna cum laude.
Wow, congratulations.